Hey guys, hapana.
Modurity oxygen.
Si must.
Yeah, si lazima, by the way. Anything that's trying to limit you, cut it off.
Welcome to For Mannerless Women, a space that is committed to nurturing a new generation of shame-free women. I'm your host, Adele Onyango, and in this episode, we're about to meet Ciku, who shared a story about her bold and audacious grandmother that went viral, inspiring thousands of women. Before we meet her, take a look at the video.
My grandmother was a feminist way beyond her age. So she was born in 1925. She escaped from home when she was 13 years old because she was going to be married off to an old man and pulled out of school. And she really loved school, and her stepmother actually helped her escape. So she escaped, was educated by missionaries, became a nurse and a midwife, was very successful, and reconciled eventually with her family. And when it was, the time to get married, she said she didn't want to get married because my grandmother said marriage is an oppressive system for women. So I just told that story time, gave the story of my grandmother, and she wanted children. She didn't want to get married, but wanted children. And she proceeded to have 4 wonderful children, none who looked alike. So I just shared this story on Storytime. And wow, there are men who are angry in my comments.
All the mannerless or almost mannerless women. So I'm very excited to have you on the show.
Oh, same here. I'm so happy to be here, Adele. This has been my highlight of the month.
This is my highlight because I love TikTok.
Yeah.
I think it's an addiction that I'm very okay with. And I was scrolling through and I come across that video where you're talking about your grandma.
Yeah.
And it was just so powerful. I could see misogynists angry in the comments, as they always are. But I could also see so many women just being like, oh, wow, this is powerful. Like this, I feel seen also, and I feel validated.
Yes.
So maybe we can start there with your grandma. Tell me a bit more about her.
Yeah. Oh, my grandma, I'll call her 1925's finest.
Mm-hmm.
So as you'll see in the video, my grandma, at a very young age, she was going to be married off. At a very young age, actually, she lost her mother. So she was raised by her father and her stepmother. Her stepmother found out that at around 12, 13, goats had already been given out for her to get married. And my grandma loved school so much. So her mother told her about this upcoming marriage to an old man.
Oh, of course.
Of course, an old man was marrying a 12-year-old.
Child.
Yeah, and my grandma's stepmom helped her escape. And so my grandmom then was raised by missionaries. She went and studied, and she was educated by missionaries, went on to become a midwife, a nurse. She was really a brilliant woman, eventually reconciled with her family. And I guess at the time to get married later on, she said, she was asked, will you get married? And my grandmother's exact words were, marriage is an oppressive system for women. This is my grandma, who was born in 1925. She didn't want to get married, but she wanted children and proceeded to have 4 wonderful children. And there was never a man in the picture. So it wasn't even an issue of, your dad left us, he did this, oh, this guy's a deadbeat. No, I think my grandma was on to sperm donors long before.
There was like a sperm bank in the area.
Yeah, those sites in Moranga known as Fort Hall.
Yeah.
She would just pop up. She has a new baby, raise them, and even managed to educate her children. One of my uncles studied in Uganda.
Wow.
My mother's sister went to study nursing in the UK, all by a single mother. And then my grandmother, a few years after Kenya Charity Sweepstake was started, so in late 1960s, she won the Kenya Charity Sweepstake. Can you imagine? I think she won around 15,000 shillings, which is the equivalent of 4.5 million Kenya shillings at this moment.
Oh, wow.
She went on, bought a lot of land, subdivided, kept some where she started macadamia farming, avocado farming. She kept pigs. I don't know what my grandma did not do. My grandma did everything. My mom tells me she used to ride her bicycle from Moranga to Nyeri. She used to go and deliver babies in the middle of the night. Then she has, her various farms that she's running. She was just such a phenomenal woman. And that was someone who was born in 1925. So
oh my God.
Such an inspiration to many.
Yes, and that's what it is. Because I'm listening to you talk about your grandma. And I'm remembering, I went for a feminist festival last year.
Yeah.
And it was the first time I saw women in their 70s, late 70s, happy African women who are feminists in their late 70s, who chose a path of womanhood that was not what society expected.
Yeah.
The one who had the most impact on me, she's a poet. Every night we would have a band. She would be the last person on the dance floor. Like, they would be turning off the lights to be like, Madam, please go to bed, right? And when I say inspiration, all of a sudden I saw a version of what aging could look like for me,
Yeah.
who's chosen a different path, that was so sweet and validating. I'm like, that's the one.
Yeah.
Give me 2 servings of that one. And so even hearing your grandmother's story is doing the same for so many women of like, that's the one. That's the one. Because we're always scared of defining womanhood for ourselves.
Yes. And I think the patriarchy has done an amazing job of convincing women that we are not whole if you don't get married. And many women believe this. So we are taught that, you know, if you don't get married, you'll be this sad woman who will suffer. You'll not have anything you want in life. You'll be shunned. You'll be alone. And then they tell us, if you don't get married and then you don't have children, you die with your cats alone.
Yeah.
And let me tell you another reason I love TikTok and Instagram, because so many women are telling their stories. And my favorite travel content tends to be from Black women in their 60s, 50s, 60s, 70s, going on cruises, on yachts, living their best lives, unencumbered by men. And I think women need to see this idea of spinsterhood that will make them question, do I really want to get married, or am I scared that if I don't get married, all these terrible things will happen? And by women, the women you're talking about, the feminists, especially older feminists, telling their stories as maybe women who decided to be child-free, women who decided to be husband-free, women who decided to break society's rules, or even divorcees or widows, and people seeing that there's different ways of being, and pick what works for you, and don't make decisions based out of FOMO.
Yes.
Adele, can I tell you, I think I could have gotten married in my late 20s and early 30s because of FOMO.
Everybody was doing it.
Everyone was doing it. So at some point, you go for weddings every Saturday. It just seems like, this is a thing to do. But then I look back at it that I'm 41. So I've passed that stage of rampant weddings. In fact, I think now I'm more in the stage of divorces and then problematic marriages. Obviously, some good marriages too that you see. But I think the majority that I'm seeing makes me think, damn, maybe all I wanted was a big party. I'm like, Fuchs, maybe what I wanted was a big party and a nice dress. I don't think I even wanted to be a wife.
Exactly.
To be honest, it sounds like a lot of work.
I wanted the wedding, not this other thing.
I didn't want all these other things, family responsibilities, society telling you how to be. None of it. I didn't want it.
Let me tell you, I always say I'm very thankful that I did the marriage and divorce before my 40s.
They call it a starter marriage.
That's like, guys,
you did your starter marriage, you checked, is this my thing?
I said, hey, guys, apana. So I'm always like, I'm very happy that I did it, because now the living is pro max, But how did watching and your mom, did your mom have elements of your grandma? Because growing up with that example must have influenced her.
It influenced her. So my mother then had a different trajectory. So my mother met, I have to say, he's a very wonderful man. This was my dad. So my mom met this wonderful man and then she was around 1920, tells my grandma she wants to get married. And my grandma was like, ooh, marriage? Are you sure? I mean, we have escaped that. There's no expectation. And she said, yes, I know I don't need a man, but I think he's a good person. And my grandma, I think, was watching him for the first few years, But my dad did not disappoint. So my mom got married, was very, very happily married for over 30 years to my father, who was such a kind, loving man. He died in 1999, so when I was 15.
Pole sana.
Thank you so much. But he was a lovely... So you see, I had the example of my maternal grandma who didn't marry and thrive. Then I had the example of my parents who had a very beautiful, warm partnership. Even if you watch some of my TikTok videos, my mom comes in and my mom says things such as, when the babies were small, I would be breastfeeding them, your dad would be changing the diapers. And I think she's also showing people that to her, that's why it worked, because it was a partnership.
Exactly.
I think my dad also knew it's not a must for her. If this marriage is bad, she comes from people who don't necessarily
She
marry.
can go home,
She can go home.
Yeah.
So she always says she thinks she was very fortunate in that she met someone who was aligned and who was a real partner. I learned a lot. My dad was 10 years older than my mom. I learned a lot of domestic things from my dad. I saw my dad cook more than I saw my mom cook. My dad showed us how to bake. He was more of the homemaker, you know, the one who's like playing with children. That was more of my dad. So I think having that experience made me think that, yes, this is how I came out with the view of that men can actually be partners and men and women are equals. And then now, obviously, fast forward to many years later, I see society's expectations of what men should be. And I'm shocked. Initially, I thought, okay, all these misogynistic men are outliers. Then now I realized, no, I don't think they're the outliers. I think I grew up in a very different situation because when my brothers were raised in the same way, I saw everyone do the same duties. My brother, my firstborn brother, wonderful brother. When I would visit him, he lived in Atlanta. I would visit him in Atlanta. My brother would say, "Oh, Shikes, you've arrived. I'm making seafood curry and this, that." He'd pour me a glass of whiskey, sit down, enjoy yourself. You wake up the next day, your laundry has been done. Like, I come from a family of actually useful, supportive, kind, affirming men. And that's my norm. So when anyone tries to convince me that, no, women should be like this, men should be like this, I just rebel. I can't.
So what are some things that, obviously you're alluding to some of the things that are fundamental in your version of womanhood, but what things then did you take from your grandma and take from your mom?
Yeah. Various things. One, I took that a man is not a must. It's not
si
a
must.
Yeah, si lazima, by the way. When my mom says, I'll translate, modurity oxygen. Like, a man is not oxygen. Honestly, you're breathing oxygen.
I need to lie. You need, please text it to me. I can practice saying it and drop it in conversation.
Modurity oxygen. You have oxygen. Why are you acting like you are not able to breathe before a man came in? So I got that. Then the second thing I got was that if you do decide you have found someone and you do, so my message is not marry, don't marry, do this. Everyone makes different choices, but my message is do what works for you. So my message has always been, okay, if you do decide you have a partner or you have a marriage, what do you want out of it? And there's no way, having my own upbringing, having seen what I saw, there's no way someone will convince me as a woman you can't do this, or as a woman if you achieve this, my ego will be bruised and so diminish yourself. So that's what I learned. Like, you just have, if anyone in this life, if you're a big woman, and I believe a lot of the people, I believe we're big women.
Yes.
I also believe you watching this, you're likely a big woman. If you're a big woman, do not attach yourself to anything that will make you have to be small to survive. So if you start thinking, this guy, if I tell him I'm getting a promotion, how will he react? Red flag. Yeah. That's a huge problem. If you start thinking, okay, I can't take this other opportunity because what will his relatives say?
Exactly.
Anything that's trying to limit you, cut it off. And I'll give you an example of someone whose story really, it resonates with me. So Ellen Johnson Sirleaf, Madam Ellen Johnson Sirleaf, the first democratically elected female president in Africa. Yeah. When she was in her younger days, by her book, One Day This Child Will Be Great, amazing book. But when she was in her younger days, she was in an abusive marriage. She writes about it in her book. She was stuck with 4 young sons, an abusive marriage, had seen her friends go off to university. She was in Monrovia, had seen her friends go off to university in America. She hadn't been to university. That's how the beginning of the book starts. And it's so shocking because you wonder, how did she go from that to where?
To president.
Yes, first female president on the continent. Yeah. And when you read her story, eventually she gets divorced. When you read her story and you get to the end, you realize another factor that she mentions. She says, people always ask me, why didn't you remarry? And I'm requoting her. But she said, I knew I can't be a wife in this society and achieve the things I wanted to do. So she knew that her ambition of becoming a politician, becoming a president, they were very incompatible with having a husband, because she knew as soon as you say, I want to do this, typical husband will say, how will this affect us? Yes. Who will be home with the children? Who will do this? How will my friends think of me if my wife is running for presidency and I'm not the president? Yeah. So she said she opted out of that. Even in her book, she says that she decided not to remarry, but that didn't mean that she didn't have love. In fact, she said, I had many great romances and one long-term partnership through it all. And she just saw that marriage was not compatible with the grand plans she had. So for me, hearing that from a woman who is still alive, very vibrant. I think
Yes.
she's 86, very much in the space of getting more women into positions of power around the continent. I looked and I said, even her, she noticed that this husband business, it can really limit your ambitions.
Oh my God, I've said this so many times. I sound like a broken record. Is that I think one of the most dangerous things in my life is a man who's threatened by my ambition. Like, you are a terrorist. Like, it's... And I also think because of how we're socialized to view marriage, even a quote unquote good man, that could easily be his default.
Yeah.
Even a well-intending man, that could easily be his default. And I always look at like the parts of my career that have had a lot of growth is when I'm single. And I was just like, that can't be a coincidence. Something's happening. The data is here. What's going on?
It's not a coincidence. And think of when I think of that issue magnified globally, the number of women around the world who, because there's the one of you achieve something, someone's upset about it, so now you learn to hold back. Imagine the number of women around this world who have turned down promotions, who have limited their academic achievements, who have held their voices back, who have constantly minimized themselves. Think about this, assuming like 3.5 billion of the world are women and girls. Imagine the impact of that, of women and girls who have to keep on holding back, minimizing, shrinking, so as not to threaten men's egos.
You know what you're reminding me of, and we're going to get to like some of the societal expectations of women that you personally have defied, right? Like, we've heard of your grandma and your mom. But what you're reminding me of when you talk about shrinking is some of the worst advice I ever got was while I was married. And the one that is probably in top 2 was that you have to live according to or within your husband's means, or like what he can afford. And why this, I couldn't wrap my head around it, is I was like, but if we live according to our combined means, we're living a softer life, because now it's dual income and we can pull in more and we can have a more enriched experience while navigating capitalism, right? Why should the type of life I want to live, why should it be? And I just thought, this is very strange advice. And I didn't get angry. I think I was more perplexed. I was just like, this is such a strange thing to say.
So if I want a cappuccino, but I don't know, I should take the tea because he'll be offended. It's like the small things that now you start being told to control yourself, limit yourself, modify your expectations.
And how unfair that someone else has to shoulder all of us in this economic climate. My God, both of us must work. We gotta pay taxes, you know what I mean? And it was just strange, but like when you're talking about shrinking, I remembered that piece of advice. But like, what are some societal expectations in your personal life that you have defied, or ways in which you are crafting your womanhood that makes you a very mannerless woman?
I'll give some anecdotes. So there's one where there's this other story I shared on TikTok, which was, I love that story because many years ago, I was in strategy consulting at the time. So I went for a meeting at not a client organization, but let's say an affiliate association. So my own organization, I have to say, there was never a feeling of you're a woman, I'm a man. It was an organization that felt very much in line with how I am. Everyone was treated as your level. Then I went for a meeting elsewhere where I guess maybe that organization or that person there didn't have the same feeling. So picture this, me and a man in a meeting. In my organization, and the reason I'm giving the backstory is it's important. In my organization, I'm higher ranking than he is.
Okay, got it.
This will be interesting for some reason. So anyway, tea is brought into the room. And it's in a flask, the tea comes. And because I'm a polite human being, I serve the tea, not because I'm a woman. Because as I told you, when I grew up, everyone cooked. If the boys were cooking, the girls were cooking, my dad was cooking, my mom was cooking.
Your brother was doing your laundry.
Yes. There's never a feeling of I'm doing this thing because I'm a woman. So tea comes, it stays for a while, and then I pour the tea. Because out of politeness, I didn't think in my mind, how will this be portrayed? And then the guy turns to me and says, you're a good Kikuyu woman. Hey, Adele.
You're insulting me, sir.
When I put this on TikTok, some guy said, I don't understand why you're so mad. This was a compliment.
Oh my days, it is not.
Imagine.
It is not.
It was a compliment. So I was so shocked. I didn't know what to do. So I went back to the office and I told that story. And my boss, very wonderful man, ever since that time, whenever we went for a meeting, noting that he was actually the head of, he would always, if there was tea, he would make sure he serves. He always made sure to protect the women from such situations in the office where now you have gendered roles. Because you have us there because we are advisors. You didn't invite us there because we're experts in serving tea.
Yeah, to do catering.
Yes. So that's one place I really defied. I was just like, I'm not going to take, I didn't even have these gender norms at home. I'm not going to take them on now in the workplace.
Exactly. And learn them now.
Yeah.
You know? And like, I think another thing that's come up for me is the importance of solo travel.
Ooh.
Which I feel like I learned late, but sometimes I, in my mind, correct myself because I'm like, what's late, Adele? You're here now. Stop shaming yourself. Yeah. But I think in my 30s is when I started like venturing out, and you start small, right? So you're like, okay, I'll get in my car and drive to this Airbnb that's like 30 minutes out. And then the next one is like 1 hour out. And then the next thing you're like, let's go to a different county.
No, a different
Okay,
country.
let's go. Yeah, exactly. And it's always so, it does something for a woman, I think. This is something that's also at the core of what's important for you, right?
Yes. Travel for me is so important. I've been to 60 countries.
Wow.
30 in Africa.
Wow.
And a lot of those trips have been solo.
Yes!
So some of my epic solo trips were, I took 2 months sabbatical and went across Brazil, Chile, Argentina, and Bolivia. 2 months. Wonderful, wonderful time. Another time, again, I took 2 months off work and I took a lot of time off work. 2 months off work. And then I went across Cote d'Ivoire, Burkina Faso, Togo, and Benin. Another time, I moved to Abidjan, knowing no one, again for 2 months. I just decided I was going to learn French, and my company they covered sabbatical. So if you went somewhere to learn a language that's interesting, useful for development, or you went to volunteer, they would cover your stay. Yeah. So I went to Abidjan because I heard it was fun, and I didn't know anyone. I just moved there for 2 months, and I had such a wonderful time. The 2 months, by the time I was living that 2 months, I knew everywhere, every part of Abidjan. I knew so many people. I've done other trips across Europe. Yeah. Other small trips across different places. And for me, I think doing this solo travel, I never even thought of it as revolutionary when I was doing it. I just always thought, I want to go to this place. I have this opportunity. And I also didn't even go because I had a lot of money. A lot of those trips, I was just, okay, I can afford to take buses across this town and I can afford to couch surf. Yeah. I stayed on people's couches. Yeah. And I would go. But now that I'm reflecting on it as Ciku in her 40s, I can see how, this is kind of brave that if I wanted to do something, and that's how I've always been my whole life. And I think because I grew up in a family where I was never told, do, don't, I never gave it a lot of thought. And now in this age, I'm like, that's kind of brave. Especially when I meet women who say they can't imagine doing it alone. I've met women who say they can't imagine being in a restaurant on their own because people will be looking at them funnily. And I'm thinking, what?
No one's looking at you. People are not looking. Their order is late.
Yeah.
They don't have, the salt's not on their table, or they're enjoying themselves. They're in their own world.
Everyone is in their own world. But there's women, I think, who have been, or even not women, this one can go to many people. Yeah. There's people who have been so conditioned that, like, if you do something alone, it means you have no friends, or you're not wanted. Yes. And those are your internal. So you also have to deal with your own internal noise. Like, what frightens you so much about doing something alone? Yeah. And let me tell you the perks of doing things alone. You get to do exactly what you want.
That part.
If you're that person who wants to hike every day, you get to go and do all the hikes. You want to be the person to go to the museums, do that. Yes. You want to sleep all day. Yeah. Watch a series. That is so fine. And that's okay. Like, I think spending time alone is so nourishing for women, but also for artists.
Yes.
And I'll tell you, I feel no shame about my alone time. So I'm a mom.
Yeah.
I have a wonderful, wonderful 5-year-old.
Yeah.
And I'm raising her with I live with my mom, my sister, and I
Yeah.
have a wonderful nanny too. And I remember when my daughter she's 5 now, when she was 2, my mom and my sister asked me, what do you want to do for this birthday?
Yeah.
And that year, I just felt I wanted time alone. And I told them, I just want to go somewhere for a week and be alone. And they told me, go. They're like, don't worry, we're with the baby. And
Look at the power of sisterhood
The
and
power of
women,
sisterhood.
community. Yeah.
Exactly. They told me, go. We are with the baby.
Yeah.
The baby is fine. And I went, and I remember I had a whole week in Leruat, Kajiado. And I remember every morning I wake up, I journal, I look at the greenery. I loved that week. And I came back and I was such a happier mom, happier human being. So I think time alone is self-care. It's self-care.
100%. And then you realize that you like your own company.
I love my own
you
company.
You battle all the skeletons.
Yeah.
Because silence can be scary to us at the beginning. But once you get through that phase, you just realize you're so cool to be around.
Yes.
You know?
I'll be by myself somewhere and I'm laughing.
Yes.
I'm writing. I'm doing this. I'm listening to music. I'm dancing. I can have a whole party by myself.
Exactly. It's so expand. And so to the mothers who are watching, because I think that I'm not a mom.
Yeah.
But I think very many women battle with that bit of like prioritizing themselves as well. And also defining womanhood within motherhood or motherhood within womanhood for themselves. Like, what would you tell them?
I would say have moments to remind yourself who you are. And first deal with your own internal, because a lot of women feel that rest is a sign of laziness. It's not. Honestly, there are days you need to wake up at noon and that's fine. Don't think I'm a lazy person. I'm sure Monday to Friday you've done a lot of things.
Yeah.
Give yourself that rest and also surround yourself with people who allow you to have that rest. Because maybe the reason you're shaming yourself is there's someone telling you, oh, you know, my mother used to wake up at this time and used to cook this and went to work and raised all the children and never needed a day of break. Maybe that's the narrative that's telling you have to do everything. Normalize giving yourself that. And I also make sure I normalize it for my daughter because I want my daughter to grow up seeing a happy, fulfilled mother. I want her to know that I love being her mother, but I also want her to know I love doing many other things. And my daughter even tells me, I make it such that if she's having many emotions or something, I ask her, do you want some alone time? And sometimes she'll tell me, Mom, I need a few minutes. And I tell her, it's okay, have your few minutes. I'll take my few minutes. I also want her to know there's nothing wrong with being alone.
Yes.
Sometimes you just need some alone time. You process, then you can come back to people and be fine. But you shouldn't have to feel the pressure of now I need to be. Because when you're with people, sometimes it can be performative.
Yeah.
You might be really, really feeling sad and want to cry all day, but now you're with your friends, so you're like... Oh.
And you have to put on the face and put on this performance. Yeah.
Give yourself that time. Give yourself that time of, I just feel like I need an introspective time. Make sure you enjoy your own company, which means when you enjoy your own company, no one can starve you of anything. Because you'll not feel, I am alone because the world has denied me, I don't know, a boyfriend or a child or this. You'll feel, I am alone. I want to be alone and I'm enjoying. It will feel like a choice rather than a punishment. Yeah.
It reminds me of one of my favorite, there's a song by Jamila Woods, it's called Holy. And she says, I'm not lonely, I'm alone. You know, and she repeats it over and over and it's just so beautiful because it's like, these two things are not the same. Like, you know? I also want to know, you've mentioned performance and it's interesting because like sometimes we've internalized the patriarchy and we've internalized the shame or the expectations of what society expects from a woman. Yeah. And we might find ourselves performing for the male gaze.
Oh, yeah.
You're just like, hey!
I think everyone has had some sort of pick-me era.
You know, those things, they hit you. You could just be doing housework, mopping the floor, and then you remember
something,
you're just like, shudder. You're like, just erase it. It didn't happen. Have you had a moment where you were performing for the male gaze?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yes, I've definitely had my pick-me
You're like,
era.
yeah.
I've had my pick-me era. Yeah. So one thing I can remember, and I'm at the stage of my life where I say that I do not minimize. If the context is someone asks me about my accomplishments, I won't minimize them. I think for the longest time, especially when it came to men, I'll say it outright. I'm extremely intelligent.
Yes.
And many times when I was in the dating world, you just meet guys who are not, I don't know how to say it, intellectual lightweights.
Yeah. They pack lights when it comes to intelligence.
Yeah, they are unencumbered by deep thoughts.
Yeah.
But still, somehow you tell yourself, that's the guy I like. Yeah. That's the guy I want to pick me.
Yeah.
So even when he's saying foolish things, you pretend you don't know the truth.
Yeah.
I don't know. So there have definitely been times in my younger days when I dumbed myself down to not intimidate men. Because I already realized, okay, men are not necessarily attracted to smarts. If you're smart, then they'll get intimidated. Then two things will happen. Either they'll reject you or now it will become a whole, oh, since you're so smart, okay, do this mental math. So I just used to now read from afar. I'm like, I just want peace.
Yeah.
Let me just pretend I'm a simple babe.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I don't do that anymore, but I've definitely done that. Then there's times too in the past when I think I should have smacked down on like the tea story I gave you.
Yeah.
Another one was after I wrote my first novel. I remember meeting, it was a friend's or an acquaintance's boyfriend. And we're chatting and he asked me, oh, so what have you been up to? And I told him, oh, I just wrote a novel. And this guy says, oh, what is it? Chick lit? First. No, he didn't even say chick lit. He said, oh, what is it? Chick flick? So he didn't even know chick lit and chick flick. But
I said a novel, not a film.
It's not a film. But also the way he said it, it's like there's something wrong with chick lit. And also, I don't know.
Even if it was a film, what's the problem?
Yeah.
Right? And even if it was chick lit, what's the problem?
Yeah.
It's not about that. It's like insecurities.
It's insecurity. Yeah. And at that time, I didn't say anything. But if I could go back to him right now, tell him, oh, you sound kind of bitter. Have you ever wanted to write a book and maybe it failed and that's why you're so intimidated? Because it was so clear he was intimidated by me saying I wrote a book. And that's the thing, like you will never know. That's a hard thing about being a pick-me. So now I'm speaking to the pick-me's.
The hardship of...
The hardship. Pick-me's. Stop that. Because you don't even know what will intimidate men.
Yeah.
Men will be intimidated by the most ridiculous of things. This guy, he's not even a writer. Why was he intimidated that I've written a book?
Yeah.
So if you try to be a pick-me, you will really fail in many ways. Because the only way you can be a perfect pick-me is have no personality. Just, go with the flow, whatever guy wants to be like that. Be the cool chick and you will be miserable.
Yeah.
So, leave pick-meism alone.
That is incredible because and how do you forgive yourself? Because sometimes I feel like I still shame myself if I think about like performance for the male gaze and the moments that I've done it. I'm just like, hey, let's not even, Adele, what are you up to, And I'm just always trying to coach myself to be like, give yourself grace. You were not brought up in a forest. You were brought up in this patriarchal society and things were fed into you. Yeah. How do you give yourself grace? Because then I think that allows you to expand and want more,
How I give myself grace is because of age. I tell myself that was the 20-year-old me. I'm a person who always journals and I'll read my journals and I have my journals from when I was 15 and I cringe. I read my journals from when I was my 20s, 30s. I'm like, oh, but that's a good thing. It means you've grown. Because if I was still doing the same things now that I was doing when I was 20, when I was 30, that means I've stagnated. So I give myself grace because I say at that 20-year-old, you couldn't see the future. You didn't know that. Why are you trying to attract a guy who is intimidated by your brain at that stage where you've not even accomplished a quarter of the things you've accomplished now, or even a quarter of the things you'll accomplish? So what was the end game? Even if I had ended up with such a guy, now I can see it with hindsight. If you ended up with such a guy, that would be the type of guy you'd have to now minimize everything you do.
Exactly.
You'd meet people and they say, oh, congratulations about this. And I'd be like, oh, no, it was nothing. Because I would know now this guy likes the version of me that doesn't have these achievements. So I give yourself grace that way. Yeah. That was the version of you that didn't know better. It's Maya Angelou says, when you know better, do better.
You do better.
And now you know better.
And you're doing better. Yeah. Yeah. And how do you unlearn? Yeah. Because I think sometimes, and this is not only limited to women and only limited to women's expansion and living a big life. I think it cuts across even with politics and decisions we've made. I think people don't know that you can make the decision to do better when you're confronted with new information.
Yeah.
I think we don't allow ourselves to change our minds about things. Like, it's almost like, since I decided this when I was 20, I've got to stick with this, So if I was performing, for the male gaze, because that's how I was socialized, and that's what I decided when I was 20.
Yeah.
I'm just going to have to stick here. So how did you just say, I make sense?
You just evolve. And the thing is, when you evolve, you also drop people who know the wrong versions of you or who know old versions of you. So the people who knew you when you're in your pick-me era, as you evolve, you don't have anything in common with them anymore. Yeah. So soon they'll start saying, but Adele these days.
Yeah.
Adele is complicated. These days, I don't know. You can't just get away with anything. What. And they'll eventually, such people will disappear, and you'll find yourself, because when you're the true version of who you are, and that's an evolution. Even who I am right now, when I'm 60, 80, there'll be different versions of me. And at each stage, you just have to honor it. You can't hold on so much to like an old version of yourself. Because you have to be growing. Mm-hmm. You have to see that evolution. And another thing that I think has helped me is, so I do a lot of reading on perimenopause. So I told you I'm 41.
Yeah.
And I think at this stage, I'm likely in perimenopause age. So that's when your estrogen also is going lower. Apparently, that's when women, we become really kichwambaya. That's when we start saying, by the way, I didn't give birth to some of you.
No,
so why are you disturbing me?
Yeah. That's true. That is so true. That is so true.
So I think there's a part of it which is, I can just feel myself changing.
Yeah.
Like even when I see how I'm responding to, all the trolls on TikTok and Instagram and stuff, I just don't care in the way I used to care before. I'm not even, I think there's a time when I was, what's the right word? You wanted to be liked.
Yes.
People pleaser. Mm-hmm. And I can feel the people pleaser in me went.
Yeah.
I don't know when she went, but she went. These days, I'm more interested in pleasing myself, in honoring my true self, than I am in pleasing other people. Maybe it's like learning boundaries, but I think there's something correlating with perimenopause, reduced estrogen, and just not having energy for foolishness.
I think when I'm 37 now, when I got into the third floor, I keep telling people it felt like a switch. Like I used to care so much about people's opinions on my life and my life choices, or acceptance and validation, external validation. And I was telling a few of my friends who are in their 40s, I was telling them, it felt like a switch, like someone just hit a switch and I just didn't care. And I would be like, Shideako, I'm not interested. Whatever you're thinking about me doesn't. And my friends in their 40s said, wait until you it gets worse. I'm like, what?
And Taraji Henson says, great philosopher Taraji Henson says, time. In your 50s, it gets worse. She says, you just can't be bothered.
Yes. And so I was just like, I'm hearing you talking about your 40s, and I'm like, my friends told me about it, and I can't wait to get there to experience that. So to the women who are watching today, what is the mannerless message you would want to leave them with?
Ooh. Women, my mannerless message for you is love bomb yourself. Love bomb yourself. All those things you wish someone could do for you, where you're like, I wish someone sent me roses. I wish someone, bought me champagne. I wish someone could give me my first trip out of Kenya. I wish someone could take me to the Maldives. Do it for yourself. Do it for yourself, or get to the place where you can do these things for yourself. Because when you do, no one will be able to starve you of attention. No one will be able to starve you of opportunities. You'll actually see that you are the one in control of your life, and you love it and build the life you want. So love bomb yourself. Tell yourself, wake up, tell yourself amazing things in the mirror. Write yourself notes, journal yourself, and tell yourself how amazing you are. Love bomb yourself.
I love that. I love that so much. As we wrap, I know we talked about your book, and here we're not going to ask you to minimize yourself, or we're not going to mock. You are an author, okay?
Yes.
Okay. So tell me, how many books have you written?
Yes, I have written 2 books. So the first was Of Goats and Poisoned Oranges, which came out in 2013. And the second is Dance of the Monkeys, which came out in 2020. if you love murder mysteries, drama, intrigue, suspense, Kenyan chaos, they are for you. And they're available anywhere where you get your books. Textbook Center, Somanami, Nuria, some Naivas locations, anyone I've not mentioned, Kimbaga Books. Anywhere you get your books, ask for books by Ciku Cheru, Amazon and Kindle too. And you will love them.
Can I just say something about the titles are what get me? Like, of goats and poisoned oranges.
I tell you why.
Incredible, yeah.
Okay, wonderful. So, of goats and poisoned oranges. So, in Kikuyu culture, goats, usually when you're talking about marriage, people will understand goats, bori. It's the way I said even goats were brought for my grandmother.
Yes.
So, when you see goats, it has something to do with marriage.
Yeah.
Oranges, because Gashugwa is like a mistress, like a small orange.
Okay.
And then poisoned, because all the characters in the book are very flawed, as we all are.
Yeah.
So that's of goats and
poisoned. That's so poetic.
Oranges. Thank you. Najaribu.
Yes.
Najaribu. Then Dance of the Monkeys. Again, this name came from, I'd already written the book, and the book had all this drama, mystery, intrigue that was happening. So it's set around a very dramatic engagement party, and things go wrong.
Yeah.
And then Wanjiro Mdaku, our amateur sleuth, is the one who comes in to solve the mystery. Kind of like Miss Marple in Agatha Christie's books.
Yeah.
But I knew there was a lot of chaos. And then I was sitting with my auntie one day, and Mama Haji, thank you. Because my auntie we were sitting and talking about something. Then my auntie she gave this Kikuyu proverb, which translates to, when you're in the dance of the monkeys, don't be surprised if someone steps on your tail. And I sat. I'm telling you, Adele, have you ever had those things you sit and you're like, wow, so if I'm in the dance of the monkeys, am I a monkey? I guess I am, because someone stepped on my tail.
Yeah.
But what are you doing in the dance of the monkeys? I just thought it was such a beautiful philosophical proverb. And I said, dance of the monkeys, because it implies a dangerous setting where someone can step on your tail.
Oh my goodness. This is so poetic. I see the cover has
a bloody fingerprint.
Yes.
Not my own blood, but yeah.
This is wonderful, Ciku. Like,
thank you.
Can I just say, like, you are living a big life.
Oh,
and you have intentionally crafted a big life, which I think is very inspiring for so many people to witness and even that you're sharing your grandmother's big life with us, your mother's big life with us. Even if there are people who get angry about it, what it's doing for women is liberating.
Yes.
So when you as a woman live a liberated life, you're not only liberating yourself, you're liberating others as well. So like, please keep on.
I believe so too. And Adele, I have to tell you the same, because I have followed you from the days of Kiss. And honestly, I am so, so deeply honored to be here and so happy, because I think you're someone who's so authentic. You've always used your voice. You've always been so brave. You've dealt with a lot in your life, and you just use that as a platform to pull other women up. So for me, I just feel so, so happy, because as you say, if the women, we should consider ourselves the big sisters. We're the big sisters. If we don't tell women what to expect up ahead, we could save someone. Someone could watch this and down the line think, those things they were saying that day.
Yes.
Or what Adele said that day on the moth.
Yeah.
We can really be able to help other women. And I think my grandmother, I feel like from some way, her story has, because she's been gone now more than 20 years. But the fact that her story is coming back, I feel like that's her voice now coming from the grave to impact people who were born hundreds of years later. So if you live an authentic life, there's a way that one day people will say, people say women can't do this. Did you know Adele Onyango of the 1900s?
Yeah, you never die.
You'll be
I never met your grandma. Yeah. But her story, I'm holding it close. Yeah. Like, you just never die, right? It's incredible. Thank you so much for coming on the show. It's been amazing. I've enjoyed it. I hope you've enjoyed it too. And of course, make sure you share this episode with all of the mannerless and almost mannerless women in your life. And as you're doing that, subscribe so that you don't miss out on the next episode.